and keep it going for Sam, you guys.
Thank you. Go a little lower. Hi, so I am the front woman for a rock band. It's called The Happy Problem, and it's really loud and fun, and I love it. But we're not quite at the point of going on tour yet. We did do one tour once, and I really love being on tour. For about 12 years, I was a solo folk artist, and I toured full-time all over the country and played in 49 out of 50 states and released several albums and had some really awesome adventures. And of course, everywhere I played, I needed a place to sleep. And I do benefit from a very extensive and well-located network of cousins all over this country, and a lot of really good friends. And so a lot of those nights were just really super fun sleepovers. But every now and then, I'd be somewhere I didn't know anyone, and I sort of had to improvise. And so there was one gig in New Martinsville, West Virginia, in a bar, and the owner had said that there was this beautiful Victorian B&B that I could spend the night in, and I thought, this is pretty awesome, worth the drive. Well, it turned out it was a beautiful Victorian funeral home that they were converting into a B&B, but they hadn't quite finished it. I'm not even sure they had started, actually. And I spent the night in a funeral home and with whoever else was there, living or dead. So the next time, believe it or not, I took the gig again. And the next time I went back to New Martinsville, I said, okay, I'm definitely not sleeping in the funeral home. And they said, oh, you can stay on the top floor. The bar was in like a little housey building, like those small town all-purposey buildings. There's a bedroom at the very top. It's a really fun room. People stay. It's great. There's a bed. We'll give you blankets. You'll have it to yourself. I thought, that's cool. And I went up after the gig, long day, long drive, long gig. And I was so excited to just relax. They'd made the little futon up for me. It was so nice. And I got into the flannel sheets, and I was just stretching and feeling so relaxed and looking around at this awesome, like, Greg Brady attic room that they had there. And I was just about to fall asleep when my head turned to the little side table to my right to see nothing but a gigantic tube of KY jelly on the nightstand. And so, once again, strikeout for New Martinsville, West Virginia. I did not sleep very well. One other night I played in North Carolina in the woods, and it was this place called, I think it was the Back Porch Cafe, or the Side Porch, or the Front Porch. The point is, I played on the porch. And the owner said, well, and you can sleep in the cafe. Like, just lock yourself in, eat all the rest of the baked goods, lie out on a couch in your sleeping bag, have a good time. So it seemed really fun and rebellious and like Night at the Museum, though this was way pre-Night at the Museum. But and then once I was in there, it was like a little sad and kind of pathetic that here I am sleeping by myself in a coffee shop in the woods. But I made it through, and in the morning, this kid came in to open, and I said hello quickly, got dressed, and left, and I didn't really think anything else of it until about a year later. I was playing at a folk conference, and this kid came up to me, and he said, you played at the Back Porch Cafe, didn't you? And I was like, why, yes, I did. He said, I was there. I saw you. And I was so flattered. And, oh, thanks. He said, yeah, I saw your titties as you were getting dressed in the morning when I came to open. So that was a wake-up call. And perhaps the biggest wake-up call of all was the first tour that I ever went on. I had booked it myself, and I planned this whole thing out west. I lived in New York. And my best friend from college, Maribel, came with me to sell merch for me and share the driving. And I played a gig in Arizona one night, and then the next morning I woke up out of like the deepest, most comfortable sleep I'd ever had. And the refrain from On the Road Again was going through my head. And I stretched, and I sort of became aware of where I was, and I realized I had no idea where I was. And I realized that I wasn't in a bed. I was on a gurney in a hospital. And I looked around, and I asked where Maribel was, and nobody knew where she was. And I fell asleep again. And the next time I woke up, I was in a bed in a room in the hospital, staring at a clock on the wall that didn't make any sense to me. And I soon learned that the reason the clock didn't make sense was because I had a concussion, and I couldn't tell time. And the reason I had a concussion was because we had been in a huge car accident, and Maribel had taken a turn too tightly, and the car flipped. And I had a big concussion and she had flown out the windshield and hit her head on a rock and was in a deep coma. And the reason On the Road Again was going through my mind over and over is because that was the song playing on our cassette player, our radio, when the accident happened. And 4 days later, she passed away. And that was the end of my first tour and the biggest wake-up call of all. And today, I'm not touring, so I do get to wake up every morning in my own bed with my husband and our little dog, and it's very peaceful, and there's no funeral directors, and there's no scones or chocolate chip cookies, and there's not even any KY jelly, but that was probably too much information. And it's lovely and peaceful, but I have to say, I still really, really yearn for being on the road, and despite the beginnings, I can't wait to get back out there again. So, thank you.
Let's hear it for Sam. That was beautiful.